I'm Ridley Pearson, and I've written a bunch of books, some of them with Dave Barry, called Peter and the Starcatchers. And